Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kira, Island Socialist on Instagram, and my blog is islandsocialist.com. I hope you're having a wonderful Thanksgiving day. In today's video, I'm sharing my Thanksgiving top. Today we're talking all about the NIELSEN FLOREAT top, and I'll be sharing some tips and tricks I used to turn this woven pattern into a knit top. Stay tuned. The NIELSEN FLOREAT pattern is actually a top and dress pattern. It features an asymmetrical hem, which is the main detail of this pattern that drew my eye to it in the first place. So there are three options that you can make. There is a cropped top, which is the one that I made. There's also like a tunic length blouse, and then you have your dress version. There are also three sleeve options: sleeveless, short sleeve, and long sleeves. I made the short sleeves. Now this is not the first time I'm making this pattern. My last one, although it was cute, technically it was a fail because I never wear it, and I'm gonna explain why. I purchased the regular size pack of the NIELSEN FLOREAT top, which goes from sizes 0 to 20, and that takes you from a bust of 32 inches to 46 inches, a waist of 24 inches to 38 inches, and a hip of 34 inches to 48 inches. Now my measurements: 40.5 to 41 bust. The waist is 33 to 34. I have a range because my weight fluctuates like crazy, and my hip is 45 to 46. So on the size chart, this kind of put me in between a size 14 and a size 16. For this pattern, you choose your size based on your bust measurement. Because of the silhouette, you really don't need your waist and hip measurements. Now, when I was choosing my size, I was a little bit concerned because of the little amount of ease that this pattern had for a woven pattern. For the size 14, for example, and that's for 40 inches bust measurement, the finished garment measurement says 40 and 7/8 of an inch. 7/8 of an inch ease. That is not something I'm used to when it comes to woven patterns, and it's also not something I would prefer. I like to have at least 2 inches of ease on my bust because when you move, it's a woven, it doesn't stretch. I just like to have that extra little bit of give so I can raise my arms. So then I went up to the size 16, and again it's the same thing. Even though it's for someone with a 42-inch bust, the finished garment measurement said 42 and 7/8 of an inch. So again, only 7/8 of an inch ease. So then I decided to take a look at the curve range because they recently came out with the curve range, and they've been updating the patterns one by one, or in batches I should say. So the curve range goes from size 14 to size 30, and that has a bust measurement of 40 all the way up to 56. Great. Now my issue is that the curve range is supposed to be drafted for a D cup bust, which I figured this is going to be perfect for me. So I go to the size 14, which again is made for somebody with a 40-inch bust, and to my surprise, the ease is the same 7/8 inch. So I was just completely stumped at that point because the finished garment measurements are the exact same thing as the regular size range. I don't know if that is correct, but because I had already purchased the regular size range, I didn't want to go and purchase the curve size range to compare the two. I went according to what the photos online said, which is that the two size charts are pretty much the same in terms of finished garment measurements. So I ended up going with a size 16. And needless to say, the shoulders were about an inch too wide for me in order for that pattern to fit my bust. So essentially what I needed to do was go down a few sizes and do a full bust adjustment, but at that time I didn't know enough about full bust adjustments, and also with the shape of the pattern I really wasn't willing to test my not great FBA skills. I went ahead and made the straight size 16, and like I said, I had those issues where the shoulders were way too wide on me. And funny enough, even though the shoulders were too wide on me, the sleeve cap area was very close and restrictive, so I was just confused all over with that particular top. The thing is, I absolutely love this silhouette. I love the shape of the top and the entire design, and I personally am a fan of Megan Nielsen patterns, so I wanted to give it another go. So now I had to make the decision if I was going to put in a lot of work and effort to try to figure out a full bust adjustment on this pattern, or I noticed that they had some bonus knit options. So you have a bonus knit neckband and also a sleeve. So I thought, well, perfect, with the knit fabric you don't need as much ease in the bust, so I could go down a few sizes and have it fit my shoulders, and then the stretch would cover my bust issues. I wanted to share a few tips and tricks I use to change the pattern from a woven to a knit, because the pattern does give you the knit neckband and the knit sleeve, but I feel like a little bit more information could be given, especially for beginner sewists. So I am here to share my knowledge with you guys, just in case you want to make this pattern in a knit. Hopefully you bounce up on this video and I can save the day. So the first thing I did was to go back to the finished garment measurements and decide how much negative ease I would like. I prefer negative ease in my knit patterns. That is just personal preference, and I feel like that is an important step that I wish was included in the pattern instructions, because if I was to make this top in the same size 16 in the knit, it would be absolutely huge. Of course, it all depends on what type of knit fabric you're using, and I will get into that in a second, because I did make one little boo-boo on mine. But anyway, so I decided to go down to size 10. That is a whopping 3 sizes smaller than the size 16 that I made previously. So usually with knit garments, I prefer about 2 inches of negative ease on the bust area. And the finished bust measurement for the size 10 is 38 inches. Like I said, I'm a 40 and a half. So I figured that would be perfect, especially because the high bust measurement for the size 10 was a lot smaller than the size 16, and that was an area that I really needed to change. Let's talk about fabric requirements. So for the woven version, the fabric requirements are light to medium weight woven fabrics, typical dress and shirt inside fabrics, cotton, linen, rayon, etc. I used a rayon slub for my last one, and so the woven top is finished with facings, and there's a slit to the back with a center back seam, and you have your button and loop so that you can get in and out, because the neckline of the floreat top is very high. So for the knit fabrics, they don't specify what type of knit fabrics you can use. They just say that you can use knits, and then you use the bonus knit pattern pieces that come in the pattern. Now, when I was thinking about my negative ease, I did not take into consideration the fabric type I was using. So my fabric is a stretch crepe, so it's a poly crepe knit. I do have some extra here so I can show you. Now, this fabric is very, very stretchy, but the thing is, it has such good recovery that when it does stretch, it causes these types of lines. So with this fabric, I actually feel like if you need a little bit less negative ease or just a tad of positive ease, I did not take that into consideration. I actually should have made size 12, because I do have some pulling right in the sleeve, especially because my right arm is larger than my left arm. So the left arm is flat, but the right arm has a little bit of pulling right on the sleeve cap. That being said, if I was using a looser knit, maybe a waffle or a very loose sweater knit, I will still stick with the size 10. So it all depends on the fabric type you're using. So the other change I made, and this is something I really wish was in the instructions, because you no longer have a need for a center back seam, right? Because remember, with the woven one, you have a button and loop closure. So you need that center back seam so that when you apply the facing, you'll have that slit. But with the knit one, it's gonna slide right over your head with the net band. So you really don't need a center back seam, and I decided I didn't want that on my top. So I actually removed that extra 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, and I just cut my back on the fold instead. This is the back of my top, and I much prefer it without that center back seam. I personally am not a fan of center back seams on knit garments. You have to be really careful with your serger tension, or you could end up with some pulling. It has to be absolutely perfect. And with this silhouette, with how wide it is, you really have absolutely no need for that center back seam. I mean, even on the woven one, it doesn't add any shaping. It's a very straight seam, and it's just there for the purpose of the slit. So the other change I made for my knit floret is I didn't bother with hemming. Now, they show you two different types of hems that you can do. You could do your just turn under twice and hem, or you could do the mitered corner. I was not about to struggle to try to hem this knit fabric. It's a pretty thin and slippery knit fabric, so I decided I would just leave the hem raw. So what I am going to do is just run a little bit of frit check all around the entire hem. I know it's not going to rip out, but just because of the crepe content, I figured I would do it just in case. Better safe than sorry, right? For the sleeves, like I said, I did short sleeves, and I actually did a 1-inch hem, and then I just used the twin needle to finish the hem. One of the amazing things about doing YouTube videos is that you have them to go back to check to know what mistakes you made the last time, so that you wouldn't make them the next time. So I went back and had a look at my video that covered that first one that I made, and one of the main issues I had was that I needed to make a forward shoulder adjustment. So this time I made my 1/2-inch forward shoulder adjustment. It worked perfectly. I'm so happy I did. Otherwise, with that high neckline, I would be absolutely choking when the top pulls back. It is an adjustment I need to make a lot, and a lot more in recent times. I really need to do better at doing my forward shoulder adjustments. It really does make a huge difference in fit, and especially comfort, because when you have a high neckline and the top keeps pulling back, you constantly have to keep pulling it forward, otherwise you feel like you're choking. I am absolutely rambling. So the final change I made was to the neckband. Now, the way they have you do the neckband, you have the center seam of the neckband attached to one of the shoulder seams. I personally prefer my neckband seams to be at the back of my garment, because a lot of the times my hair is down anyway, and you're not gonna see that seam. I love the asymmetrical hem, but when it comes to seams, especially up at the top, I like a bit of symmetry. So it was really hard for me to put the seam on one shoulder and then the other shoulder would not have a seam. You get what I mean? So I preferred it at the back. So I just used the quarter method. I quartered my neckband, and I also quartered the neck of the top, and then I just matched those up and stretched as I sewed it on the serger. Now, with 5/8-inch seams, it's a little bit more difficult to do on the serger. You just want to make sure you choose the correct line. If you're unsure, just take a ruler and measure from the needle to the lines. Figure out which one is the 5/8-inch line, and you'll just run your fabric up along that edge instead of along the knife. Or if you prefer, you could sew it using a regular zigzag stitch on the sewing machine, and then you just finish the edges with the serger. But I sew the entire thing on the serger except for the sleeve hem. One of the things I absolutely love about the floreat top, apart from the fact that it's absolutely beautiful, is the fact that it takes only 1 yard of fabric. So I actually had 1.5 yards of this fabric, and I have 1/2 yard left. And I do remember from my woven version, I only used 1 yard as well. I thought I would have used more for this one because I actually lengthened this one. So this version is kind of like right between the cropped and the blouse version. I added 2.5 inches to the cropped version, and that is because from the side, I mean, you can tell that the back is pretty cropped and then it slants down in the front. I didn't want my back to be as cropped as the woven version, so I added 2.5 inches, and this is the perfect length for me. And of course, I will insert pictures so you guys can see what the top looks like on. So that is it for this video. I hope you learned something. I hope you feel inspired. I am pretty sure that NIELSEN is having sale this weekend. I mean, every pattern company I know is having a sale this weekend. So if you want to grab this pattern, now is the time. I have to say, I can't see myself making this top in a woven again, just because of the little sizing issues. I'm going to stick with knits. And like I said, I will switch my size from 10 to 12 depending on the type of knit that I'm using. So I really hope that my tips and tricks helped. Thank you so much for joining me for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, give me a big thumbs up. Also hit the subscribe button down below. If you have not done so already, remember to click the notification bell just so you'll be notified every time I post a new video. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday weekend. Make sure you catch all of those Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales. I definitely have some things on my list. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.